What's up, Thrive? Pastor Mark here, just checking in for another weekly recap. And before I get into the recap of the weekend sermon, I have two quick announcements. Number one is next week, per the Thrive calendar, it is our year-end Thrive party, and we're going to celebrate. It's going to look a little different than we anticipated, but next week on the 30th, Thursday night, we're going to do an all-Thrive electronic hangout with games, giveaways, and fun memories from the year. So make sure you clear your calendars. I know there's a lot going on in your lives right now, and you're really going to have to make a lot of space for Thursday night, but make sure you do that and you are there because it's going to be a really good time together. The second announcement I want to talk about is that we're not going to stop meeting in small groups after our end of the year party. So that's good news. We're going to continue meeting, and I've met with all the leaders. We've talked through a plan kind of for the summer, and until things change with this home lockdown, we want to continue meeting in our Thrive groups on Thursday nights via Zoom in whatever ways that we are able to connect with each other. We want to take advantage of those opportunities. So if you grab your Bibles and your notes from the weekend sermon, I just want to remind you about what we talked about over the weekend. And I really want to suggest to you today that being married can actually help you to apply the weekend sermon more effectively. The sermon was all about maintaining unity as a church family, and especially in light of the presence of differing opinions about things like the coronavirus and whatever else may be, there's always the threat of disunity within the church. So the sermon was saying, hey, we need to fight for unity amongst one another as a church family, especially during times and seasons when differing opinions are really pronounced. And we're certainly in one of those times right now. So Pastor Mike challenged us to remember that there will always be debatable issues. We should not let our opinions disrupt our unity from church, and we should be careful to not let our decisions trip others up. And a number of exhortations, I think 9 of them from Romans chapter 14. And so you can talk through each of those in your groups and think through those together in an effort to pursue unity. But as I suggested, I think your marriage can actually help you to do this more effectively. Your spouse brings a whole new perspective and set of strengths to you. When you became one flesh with them, when you formed a lifelong covenant with them, you gained all of their strengths and all of their weaknesses, their different perspectives and the things that you share in common. So you gained those things and you became a family unit. And now you have more perspective, more diversity than you had before when you were single. And what's ironic is that this is usually the very thing that is right at the center of conflict in our marriages. We clash in our marriages because we're different and we have different perspectives. For example, Bethany and I, we have very different understandings of what constitutes a clean family room. So occasionally, I'm tasked to certify that the family room is clean and the kids can go upstairs and get ready for bed. And, like most families, the family room is the place where majority of the daily activity takes place. And so by the end of the day, there's usually a lot of stuff that needs to be picked up. And so oftentimes I will monitor that cleanup process and then I'll authorize when the room is clean. And often what happens is Bethany will enter the room after I've given my stamp of approval, and she'll say something provocative like this: "I thought you said that the kids cleaned up." And this illustrates just how different our understandings of clean really is. I can look at the family room and I can see a room that's fine. It's good. You should have seen it before. And she can walk into the same exact room and somehow, with superpowers, identify like 10 things that I didn't even notice that need to be picked up and put away and stuff like that. And so, she kind of feels like she can't rest at the end of the day until all that stuff is put away. I'm perfectly fine resting, even if I'm in the middle of a, storm of kid toys in the family room. And so we just have different perspectives. And that kind of difference that I illustrated right there can be the very source of a lot of conflict, a lot of tension, a lot of clashing within our marriages. But wouldn't it be a lot better to leverage these differences for good? In the sense of you can be more thoughtful, more caring, because you've added diversity to your perspective on church family, church life, friends, decisions that are being made, all sorts of things. And so I really want to challenge you to take advantage of your differences and come together as husband and wife, talk about them, and value each other's opinions to the extent that you factor them in to your thought process, to your care and concern for others, especially here at the church. And so this can be really a way that you can be better off being unified and staying unified with your church family. So I want to pose an additional question for you to talk about because this idea of clashing could very well generate some clashing. But think about it this way. In your marriage, do you do a good job of leveraging your differences for good? Or do you find that your differences end up causing more problems than solutions? So, are you able to leverage your differences for good? And maybe you could just add to that, how can you do a better job helping each other because of, and not in spite of, your differences? So, talk about these things tonight in your groups. Get through the questions on the back of the worksheet, and I hope you guys have a great discussion. And I'll see you next Thursday night for the Thrive End of the Year Party. See you then.